As we explore Formula One's wild side, prepare to rev your engines. Imagine an F1 race on an almost oval track. Sounds crazy, right? The Bahrain Outer Circuit, used for the 2020 Sakhir Grand Prix, is just the tip of the iceberg. But hold on, it's not the only oddball track out there. Today, we're diving into this video to know history's top 10 most unconventional Formula One circuits. From the bizarre Bahrain configurations to other long-forgotten gems, let's uncover the quirkiest tracks that have challenged F1 drivers. Las Vegas. In the 2020 Formula One season, we got used to some unusual race names, but nothing as extraordinary as the Caesars Palace Grand Prix in Las Vegas between 1981 and 1982. Can you believe they built the track in the parking lot of the famous Caesars Palace Hotel? Imagine the track shaped like a capital E, feeling more like a car park than a race circuit. The drivers weren't thrilled, especially dealing with the scorching Nevada desert heat. Las Vegas locals were left bewildered by this unfamiliar racing series zooming around a car park. Thankfully, this quirky venue only lasted 2 years but holds a spot as one of the most peculiar locations for a Grand Prix, Monaco. Now comes a circuit we all know and love, Monaco, but let's admit it, it's a bit of a strange layout. Held around the tiny place of Monte Carlo, this race has been happening every year since 1955, except for 2020, and has seen some of the sport's biggest moments. The narrow track has big ups and downs, making it a challenge to conquer. Winning here is a massive deal for an F1 driver, even considered part of motorsport's historic Triple Crown. Moreover, this circuit is short, only 3.337 kilometers, featuring a tunnel and tight hairpins. Safety measures became a big deal over the years because before barriers were added, drivers would crash into buildings, train stations, trees, and even the famous harbor more than once. To slow things down, they added chicanes and moved the pits away from the seafront. Legends like Graham Hill, Michael Schumacher, and Ayrton Senna have owned this track, winning multiple times and creating history. Dallas. In the scorching heat of Dallas, this one race didn't go down well. The Dallas Grand Prix was hot, with a bumpy and falling apart track. Formula One drivers didn't like it much. It was one of a few American city tracks around that time, after Las Vegas and before Detroit and Phoenix. The track was fast for a street circuit, but wasn't without issues. Even the skilled driver Alan Prost made a rare mistake there, the big problem. The track got messed up by a race held the day before. They tried fixing it in a rush, but it didn't work. On race day, the track kept breaking, catching many drivers off guard, including Prost. After that mess, Formula One never came back to this unsuitable street circuit. Valencia. In Valencia, Formula One teams set up their garages in a fish market. The street circuit was a mix of oddities, with a swing bridge covered in asphalt and an urban setting that blended street circuits with a permanent course. This unique track hosted F1 races from 2008 to 2012, witnessing Michael Schumacher's memorable podium finish in his 3-year comeback with Mercedes. Although the circuit was later abandoned, Fernando Alonso's remarkable victory from 11th on the grid in a not-so-great Ferrari during the last race ensures this peculiar venue will be remembered for a fantastic racing performance. Aarhus, Automobilwerkers und Übungsstraße Aarhus, is one of F1's strangest tracks. It's an 8.3 kilometers track that's more like 2 long roads with hairpin turns at each end than a typical racecourse. Originally, it was a whopping 19 kilometers long, but by the 1959 Grand Prix, it had been shortened. So, what makes it odd? It had super steep turns, especially the North Curve, which was considered extremely dangerous until 1967. This track wasn't just for F1, it hosted various events, including athletics at the 1936 Summer Olympics. In 1959, F1 made its only official visit, and guess what? All top 3 drivers, Tony Brooks, Dan Gurney, and Phil Hill, were part of Scuderia Ferrari, a rare team sweep. The race was a speedster, with an average of 143.3 miles per hour, a record back then. However, due to the risk, F1 decided from 1961 onwards no more races on tracks with steep turns. Aarhus had its swan song in 1999 and is now a forgotten relic, with the tower and offices turned into a motel. A journey from speedway to resting place. Pescara. In the 1957 Pescara Grand Prix, things got really quirky. Just imagine, on this track, even Jack Brabham, a Cooper driver, ran out of fuel during the race. But wait, here's the twist. He rejoined the race after topping up at a trackside petrol station. This 25.8-kilometer road course, famous for its high-profile Cooper turbo races, was a late addition to the 1957 World Championship calendar, filling in for canceled Belgian and Dutch Grand Prix due to the Suez Crisis causing high oil prices. It holds the record for the longest circuit ever in a World Championship race, taking us back to the pioneering days of road racing. Circuit changes. Fast forward to 1994, the year that brought changes to multiple tracks, not just one. Why? Because of Ayrton Senna's tragic death, safety became a top priority. Some changes, like the hairpin added at Estoril in Portugal, stuck around due to its permanence. Remember Damon Hill's flip after a crash with Eddie Irvine's Jordan during practice? But what stands out are the temporary alterations. In Spain, a tire stack chicane popped up after the campsite, surprising the drivers. Canada had a curb chicane on its long back straight. The most remarkable? A chicane in the mighty Eau Rouge. Drivers, usually flying, had to drop to second gear for a left-right flick before climbing uphill. Luckily, this change was a one-time thing. Monza. Monza, a famous racing track, had a unique layout for the Italian Grand Prix from 1955 to 1961. They used Monza's banking, creating a strange, almost oval configuration. Drivers began on the main straight, took the usual Monza route, but then veered right onto the steeply banked north curve. They completed the oval track before rejoining the main straight to finish the lap. Fast and risky, this track was used to help Ferrari win, but it was considered too dangerous and was discontinued. Despite its long history in Formula One, Monaco remains an odd circuit. Racing high-speed cars on its short, narrow roads seems strange. Even Nelson Piquet compared it to riding a bike around apartments, emphasizing its unlikely nature. This race, amid Monaco's luxury and wealth, is a unique reminder of an older time in racing history. Today, proposing a similar new event on such narrow streets would likely be met with laughter, given its incongruity and absurdity. Indianapolis. Let's talk about Indianapolis, not the roval used from 2001 to 2007, but the iconic Brickyard itself. Disregarding the debate over the Bahrain Outer Circuit, Formula One raced at the renowned oval from 1950 to 1960. The Indianapolis 500 was part of the F1 calendar, although there wasn't much overlap in cars or competitors. In those 11 races, no driver scoring points ever earned points in a traditional Grand Prix. Yet, names like Bill Vukovich, Roger Ward, and Johnny Parsons are listed as Grand Prix winners. The Harvest Circuit hosted the 1959 German Grand Prix on a motorway. While not a great configuration, it was used in the pre-war years with streamlined bodywork. The track, an astonishing 19 kilometers at its longest, featured terrifyingly steep banking on the north turn. In 1959, Tony Brooks won the race for Vanwall at an average speed of 237 kilometers per hour. However, tragedy struck as French legend Jean Bayrat lost his life in a crash during the sports car race preceding the Grand Prix. Harvest Circuit remained in use for international motorsport until the 1990s, hosting DTM and German Formula 3 races, with even Michael Schumacher winning there. Nordschleife. The Nürburgring Nordschleife, the primary venue for the German Grand Prix from 1927 to 1982, except in 1959 when Avis hosted, was a colossal track measuring 22.835 kilometers with a staggering 160 corners. The Nordschleife became increasingly perilous as Formula One cars evolved to greater speed. In 1967, a chicane was added before the start and finish straight, and by 1970, the race was boycotted due to safety concerns. A fatal crash at Zandvoort intensified calls for Nordschleife modifications, but with time constraints, the event moved to the perceived safer Hockenheimring, recently modified. Responding to drivers' demands, Armco barriers were installed, and the track surface was smoothed, yet costs and safety challenges persisted. In 1976, reigning champion Niki Lauda advocated boycotting the event due to the circuit's length and variable weather. Disregarding his warnings, the race proceeded. During that race, Lauda suffered a life-altering crash, saved by fellow racers who pulled him from the wreckage. However, F1 never used the full Nordschleife circuit again, deeming it too expensive and perilous, marking a significant chapter in Grand Prix history. So, what do you think of these top 10 most unconventional tracks in the history of F1? Comment below and subscribe for more.